Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Nithsdale Area Committee, which has been live streamed and recorded. The recording will be made available on the Council website for public listening. Members may notice that when calling members to speak, I'll refer to them formally and using their title example, Councillor Jones, so that it's clear who are councillors and who, by the process of elimination, are officers. Similar to the process now followed in full council, when considering motions or amendments which are substantive in nature, I will call a recess where necessary so that I may seek governance advice on competency. This is a good practice in governance terms and will also provide for governance to be able to collate and circulate the terms of said motion or amendment to members in order that they have the opportunity to properly review it. I hope this process makes matters more efficient and I seek members' support in implementing this. Members happy to go on with that? Thank you. For remote participants, please follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting. Writing speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute, and if you're in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it's intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. And if any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then write join when you rejoin the meeting so that we can keep track on whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly and directly into the microphone when making contributions, and when referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraphs to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to recommendations. So, sediment and apologies. Claire, can you provide the sediment and any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. I've been advised of one apology this morning from Councillor John Campbell. There's 9 members present in the hall and 1 youth councillor, being Chelsea McDill. There are 6 members present on Teams and 2 youth councillors. 2 youth councillors present on Teams are Theo Callamack and Greg Dunsmuir, and I guess I should go through who's here and who's on Teams. So in person we've got yourself, Chair, Vice Chair, Councillor Bell, Councillor Dorver, Councillor Hislop, Councillor Maureen Johnston, Councillor Slater, Councillor Stevenson and Councillor Stitt. There's remaining members present on Teams apart from Councillors Ian Blake and Councillor Keith Walters, who are not currently present. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. And can I start off by making an apology to members, especially to Councillor Dorward. The papers states that the meeting is at Municipal Chambers, and I did not pick this up. I'm sorry, Linda.
It's okay, Chair. My step count's improved tremendously this morning, so thank you for that. There's always unintended good consequences to things.
Take every win where you can get it. Yeah, but apologies to members, and I hope that none of the members that are not present are actually hovering somewhere at Municipal Chambers. I hope not. But we'll check this. It's just been a clerical error, that's all. So, declarations of interest. Do members have any statement of connection or declaration of interest to declare based on the definition? So your connection is for transparency reasons. Members may wish to make a public statement, or a declaration of interest. Members would now require to leave the meeting for that item. So do we have anyone who falls in that category? No. Okay, we'll move on to... Oh, sorry, Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, just item 5. My daughter works in that department, so but I'm still be just a connection. I'll still stay into the this discussion. Okay. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Okay, we'll move on to a minute of the previous meeting of the 12th of November 2025. Are we happy to approve the meeting? Or that minute of the meeting, anyway? Thank you. So before we move on to the first report, I'd like to thank those who attended our first community engagement session. We held the event last week in Dumfries, and the session was valuable and gave us the chance to hear how Dumfries Shine has taken forward and what a great success it's been. I know we're still waiting on the next two, which we agreed would be question time events in schools. I see, Councillor Ferguson, you've still got your hand up. Are you wishing to come in here?
As a legacy chair, sorry.
No problem, thanks. So we move on now to agenda item 4, the Scottish Fire and Rescue Services, Nithsdale Area Committee, Nithsdale Area Performance Report, quarter 1 and 2. Now, the first report we're being asked to consider today is the performance report from the Fire and Rescue Service. As always, it provides a thorough and detailed set of information for us to review, and we acknowledge and appreciate the service's continued commitment to doing so. It's very much appreciated, gentlemen. Station Commander David Moffat and Watch Commander Stephen Dakin are in the hall to answer any member questions or address any member comments. Before I open for members' questions, Dave and Steve, we discussed at the last meeting about changing the information from Abbey Ward, because some of Abbey Ward sits in Nithsdale Area Committee and some of it in the Stewardship Committee, and to see if there was a possibility of sort of dividing that information out on your systems. As a result, we don't have any information at all for Abbey, so is there a possibility to do that on your systems, or are we better going back to the system we had before?
Yeah, good morning, Chair. Thanks for the question. We actually reviewed and updated our report mechanisms last year, and the report that you have in front of you is the standardised report that we send out as an organisation to all committees and all local authorities. It works on district lines and not ward lines, which is the reason I think some of the information that you're asking for may be missing from the report. If you'll allow me to go back, and I'll take that recommendation back and see if that's something that we could action by bringing the Abbey report over into the Nithsdale report, and I'll get back to you if that's okay.
Thank you for that. We used to have the Abbey report, as I said, but some of the information was Nithsdale and some was at Stewardship, and if it can't be divided out, then I think it's better having at least the full report in both committees. But no, thank you very much for looking into that anyway. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. Good morning. And acknowledging that reply from the fire officers, given that we still have this discrepancy in the data, so there'll have to be something stated next week at the stewardship, could at least some sentence or something be put in to actually explain why there is no Abbey Ward data in Nithsdale? And then obviously next week we can ask why the stewardship has the whole ward, including Nithsdale, because there's nothing for the public to say here what has happened with the data. It's the fact that there's been a change of system, and I think that would be really important because the public do see these papers.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. I don't believe there's a change of system. I think it's our request has kind of messed things up a bit, whereas we've asked for the stewardship information to be removed from the Nithsdale from Abbey, and then the Nithsdale to be removed from the stewardship report, and the system that the service has does not accommodate that. So in turn we have this, but we need to be looking into bringing that back to the way it was before, I think, because then at least we'll have the information.
Sorry, can I come back on that? Even if it's got a sentence or something in these reports so the public can see what the difference is and why Abbey Ward doesn't appear, because there's nothing here to say what's happened with it, I think, just for clarity.
I'm struggling to figure out what sentence you mean and where the sentence would go in the report. Because you're going to get that information to stewardship, and from here onwards we're going to get, I think, back to the system we had before, because at least that worked. At least we had the information.
I think what I was just asking is that it now won't really kind of apply for this if we can go back to where we were. But if you look at these papers, the public looking at them, there is no mention of Abbey Ward and there's nothing to say. Please note the data for Abbey Ward has been included and then where it's gone. So people looking at this thinking, did nothing happen in Abbey Ward? So as a public thing, this is a statement of where the data has gone. I appreciate in the future we should get it back. Thanks for that.
Thank you for that, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Beretti.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Excellent report, easily digestible, and I'm looking at pages 24 and 25. And looking at it's mostly an observation, but there is a question at the bottom. You look at the accidental dwelling fires, deliberate fires, non-domestic, accidental dwelling fire casualties, road transport casualties, and non-fire casualties. And I noticed that most of the peaks happen in Q1 going into Q2. Now, that would correspond clearly with more people staying at home and winter. And it's quite clear with this type of graph that is there. Question, does that mean we need to be more direct with messaging in the Q4 period going so that people who are likely to read it will be more aware of the risks involved, whether it's on the road or at home?
Yeah, good morning, Councillor, and thanks for that question. What we do within our team, the Community Action Team in Dumfries and Galloway, is we will look at trends and try and identify if there are any trends there. We also work nationally using our thematic action plans, which is targeted advertising and initiatives to highlight some of the kind of identified hazards that we find around about that time of year. So we run a thematic initiative every 3 months, and it ties in with the quarters. So we do tend to try and engage with the communities, identifying those kind of likely hazards that they're going to face at that point in time, and we try and get in front of it.
Thank you, Chair.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Beretti?
Yeah, I mean, I can see the peaks and troughs on that particular type of layout, so it is quite, it is quite stark that it always happens Q1 going into Q2, and then it settles down Q3, Q4, now bounces back up again Q1, Q2. But no, I'm quite happy with that response, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wood.
Good morning, everybody. Once again, I would like to reiterate that it is an excellent report. Just 2 points I'd like to ask, and that is, with the recent fire that took place in Glasgow, are we being proactive on our vaping outlets to ensure that they are safe? And the other point is, with animal rescue, have we been undertaking any further animal rescues in the region? As I see your colleagues north have been taking calves out of a slurry pit.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor. In relation to the first part of your question, which was the recent fire in Glasgow, our enforcement team are constantly working to identify any risks in terms of premises or duty holders within the area, and they will engage with the duty holders and work with them to make sure that they're maintaining a good level of fire safety. I'm hoping you'll appreciate that given the fire was very recent, there will still need to be discussions and reviews and debriefs following it, and I'm sure that further recommendations and actions will come from that. When that's disseminated down to areas, we can then look at that and see what we're going to do moving forward. The second part of your question in relation to the animal rescues, yes, we do carry out animal rescues in the area. We do have animal rescue capabilities at Dumfries. I don't have the details on the recent incidents. I do know one was to rescue a horse from an overturned trailer. So we do participate in animal rescue in the area, and I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for that. Are you happy with that, Councillor Wood?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Vice Chair, Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Provost. It's an old question, but it never seems to be resolved in terms of the provision of your new report. For our purposes, page 17, 4.2 talks about the role of scrutiny. 4.3 talks about the key consideration for elected members from the statement when scrutinising performance is, and amongst that is service performance in bullet point 4.4 and customer satisfaction. There's nothing in here that tells me how individual fire stations are responding to calls, whatever that type of call might be. For example, in Midden or Nithsdale, for all I know by reading this report, Thornhill could be all the time and Sanker never at all, because there's no evidence to say how busy or frequently stations are deployed or mobilised. And that used to be provided in the old system, and I would appreciate it if that could be incorporated somehow in some future reporting system, because it'd be of concern to elected members if the appliances in their individual ward wasn't for some reason being utilised or able to be mobilised, and we'd want to understand why that might be. So it's not today, the report's very good, it's comprehensive, it lets us know exactly what different types of activities the service is engaged in, including training. I'd just like to understand how individual fire stations are performing, if that's possible.
Yeah, thank you for the point there, and that's something that we can try and look at. It's sometimes not as straightforward as one particular appliance deploying into its own area. Sometimes we might have instances where appliances are deploying from, for instance, Thornhill, maybe going to support an incident in another part of the area. So we can look at that, and I've taken a note, and I'll let you know.
Thanks for that, Provost. I served 20 years in Sanker. We get Ayrshire coming to us and we go beyond, but it's just about how free, and I'm more concerned about how often appliances doesn't go out for whatever reason than when they do. Thanks, Provost. Thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Chair. Obviously, looking at your reports here, deliberate fires, obviously it was a reporting period from 2025 to 26. Obviously, there's an increase in North West Dumfries. Obviously, I remember in the past we've had a number of fires in the convent. There was obviously various deliberate fires in North West Dumfries, maybe 18 months to 2 years ago. And a number of the youth went through the fire raising awareness course, the social services involved there. How effective is this, the training and sort of education you're giving the youngsters, in a deliberate fire setting? I just wonder how effective is it? Is there any other message you should be trying to get this message out there that it's the wrong thing to do?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. Yes, the fire safety support and education programme does work. As you can look at Q1 for 25-26, there was a spike in, as you say, the deliberate fires. We spoke with 3 people, 2 who were from that area, and over the next few quarters, the deliberate secondary fires have dropped dramatically, even compared to the quarter 23-24. We do a lot of work with youth justice at secondary education level, where it's small groups and the antisocial behaviour deliberate fire setting is discussed with them. We have Operation Safety, which is directed at primary 7 pupils, which runs over a 3-week period at DG1, and we engaged with over 1,100 primary 7 pupils at that, again discussing home fire safety, bonfire. Our community action team go out into all the schools of their areas and speak about antisocial behaviour and deliberate fire setting. We were involved with social work, so some of the referrals for the fire safety support and education come from social work. We work with Police Scotland, so particularly in Q1, where we had the spike in North West Dumfries of deliberate fires. The police were called at the time of the incident to notify them of the incident. Then the community action team followed up the next working day by speaking to the community officers. So we formed a good intelligence network of, where to direct our education and that. So the work we are doing within the education sector does work. We're also looking now, so the derelict buildings that we have, we're working in partnership with the police and the ambulance service to form some part education about the dangers of these buildings. So we're ongoing and react to the situations that are happening in the area. But the work that we are doing does help with the reducing deliberate fires within the area.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Dorward.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, members. Thank you for the report. Just to commend page 38, it's good to see that more station commanders, by the sounds of it, are being trained in managing wildfires, because they are a major issue, or hopefully won't be, but they probably will be coming up this year. I want to actually ask a question on those, page 32, even my specs on, I can't see it. Road traffic collisions, which have gone up slightly in the same period last year, not massively, but and it's also, there's been one fatality. Is there any way, I know you've put the incident...
I usually leave my with the launch, so he's done a mask for that.
Thank you. It's not my day today, is it? I want to go to the wrong place and do... So, I wonder what the third thing will be. Something lined up, Chair? No? Sorry, going back to this being a bit more serious. So one fatality recorded, which is horrendous. Is there any way of indicating what type of road these incidents occur on at some point in time? There are not many of them. Would that be possible? Like, is it a trunk road? Is it a C road? Is it an A road? What is it? And the location? Or is that something that is too much drilling down? Because I think that would be interesting to constituents in terms of where they are, what they are, and certainly I don't know about other elected members get questions from constituents about certain parts of the roads that they consider to be quite dangerous, and it doesn't seem to be, nothing to do with you guys, but the police don't seem to have the same perspective, so it might be useful to know where these are. I think that's that. And what does non-fatal casualty mean? Because it could mean anything from superficial scratch to not a fatality, I suspect. So is there any way of brigading that in a sort of a better way? Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Councillor. First, yes, we do deal in quite low numbers of road traffic collisions anyway. You know, we're seeing a spike in the spark line, but it might be very small numbers of a difference in terms of the incidents that we're going to. We do tend to try and drill down into the data as much as we can to identify any trends, whether it be you know, particular points in a road, what type of road. However, we focus on those trends, and we don't identify that, or we don't identify a trend, and at the moment we haven't. A non-fatal casualty, like you said, it can range from anything from you know, preliminary treatment at the incident to hospitalisation. We do tend to try and report on if there's any significant casualties or seriously injured casualties. But again, it would be onerous and quite complex to try and drill down into that level of information for us.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that feeding the machine isn't your only objective, and you've actually got to go out and do real work, and you know, so I understand that totally. But it might be useful even to have the type of road, if you couldn't do, you know, what type of road is it? How's it classed? Is it, you know, a trunk road or an A road or a B road or a C road? That might be quite useful for people to know, if that's doable, if that isn't too onerous. Thank you.
Councillor Hislop.
Getting back to Glasgow, I've done a wee bit of fire training or fire awareness training at my work, and one of the guys said that lithium batteries, or either in cars or whatever, you need chemical suppressants rather than water. Are we resourced in Dumfries and Galloway for that? Now, it may be that my little knowledge is a dangerous thing rather than full knowledge, so I might be wrong in that, but that was what we were advised. And if we have got a car fire or lithium batteries, have we the right resources to actually deal with that?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Councillor. Lithium-ion batteries is one of our identified emerging risks. That's nationally, not just within the area. So the organisation is constantly reviewing, renewing and updating our skills, training, equipment. What I can say is that at the moment within the area, we are trained and we are able to respond to instances of lithium-ion battery fires. And if that were to occur, then the response would be there, and would be able to affect an action on the fire.
Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. We'll stick with North West Dumfries instead of heading up to Glasgow and wait and see what comes out of that before we can ask any questions. Just in North West Dumfries, sorry, did you say that 2 of the 5 came out of the area? Or was it? Thank you.
There was 2 people that were spoken to under the Fire Safety Support and Education project from the North West Dumfries area, yes. There was only the 2 that I know of that we had dealings with, but they say there was community work done within there.
Yep, thank you. Sorry, I'm a wee bit deaf and I didn't pick it up properly. Whereabouts in North West Dumfries where the fire started? Because we know there's pockets where there has been issues, and we obviously as councillors we were trying to push it, but if we knew where it was, it would kind of help aid what we're trying to achieve. Thank you.
From my awareness, I was on actual operational watch commander at the time when they had these spiking fires, and they were mostly around the River Nith area. Yeah, that was where the most of them were. I know there was the larger one that was the bridge that happened later on, but that the space back in Q1 was mainly around the River Nith in that area.
Thank you for that. Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank you for a good report. It's also good to hear that Operation Safety is still running after all these years, because our company were heavily involved in that. It was supplying out with 8,000 square feet per year, where there was 1,300 children. It took 3 weeks to go through them all. So I thank you all for that, I must admit. The thing is, as regarding going back to empty buildings, are classed as empty, but sometimes to burn a building down, you need some sort of a propellant as such. But sometimes there's maybe, what I'm asking is, if there's stuff left in the building, say in a corner or something like that, does that increase the risk of them being burnt down when there's something there already for them to set fire to?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Yes, sometimes. So we do regular building checks as well, the community action team. So we'll go around all the unused buildings, check that they're secure. Yes, there are items left in some of the buildings. I attended an incident at the Nithsdale Hospital 2 years ago, and there is a sizable bit of items in there that can be set on fire. However, say with our regular building checks, as soon as it's noticed that a building is no longer secured, we will report it to the police. We also report it to the council to get it secured as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, that's down to the owners, the current owners, or the past owners that leave equipment. You know, we can't be responsible for removing such items.
Just one other question. Going to the Glasgow fire, which was apparently a vape shop, and apparently it wasn't registered as well. What I'm asking is, the fire brigade, have they got to be what you call registered with the fire brigade? Because they'll be carrying lithium-ion batteries in their equipment and the vapes and that. So I just wonder if they're all the vape shops are actually registered with the fire service and are checked on a regular basis. Thank you.
Yeah, so again, going back to kind of earlier on in the previous question, our enforcement team will work alongside other authorities, other enforcing authorities to identify commercial premises and premises like that. We will engage with those duty holders and we will make sure that they're complying with all fire safety measures under the Act, and we'll look to advise them on any deficiencies that they can make improvements on. So we do work very closely with all the duty holders in the area. We're constantly working to identify new premises as well, and like I said, working alongside other partners like local authority, you know, to identify these premises and to get in and speak to the duty holders.
So all the ones here at the moment, they are registered, but you don't really know that. There's probably some people maybe selling them, not selling under the counter, but in different ways that are maybe not shown to yourselves. And that's a difficult one, that I must admit, to find these people sometimes who's actually selling them. I just wondered how efficient you are to finding them, I suppose, really. Thank you.
Councillor Slater, thank you very much for your questions, but I don't think that's for the fire brigade, but I understand it's a very emotive subject right now, but thank you. Any more questions? No? Okay, we'll move to recommendations. Members were asked to scrutinise the performance report for Nithsdale from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for 2025-26, quarter 1 and 2, as detailed in appendices. And Councillor Lowe, I've been advised by Claire that we will put an explanation into the minute regarding the omission of the Abbey Ward details. And thank you for coming along, gentlemen. The next 3 reports reflect our new performance management approach as agreed at this committee on the 3rd of February, 3rd of September even, 2025. This new approach enables us as an area committee to review and scrutinise the performance of the success measures and projects we have agreed to monitor. Now, these reports include quantitative data and qualitative insights highlighting progress, challenges and emerging trends in the Nithsdale area. This is the first time we've been presented performance reports in this way, and I'm sure directorates will continue to develop how they share the detailed information we've requested. We are advised that the Economy and Infrastructure Directorate intend to bring their performance information area committees in May and November. So the first of these reports provides performance information on the selected success measures and projects from education, skills and community wellbeing service plans, education and resources, schools and thriving communities. It's really good to see all the information we asked for being provided in such detail, and I'm sure members will agree this level of detail is what we're looking for. So Harry Hay, I thought he would be in the hall, but I think he may be on Teams. Hi, Harry. Do we have Lee Seaton, Lynn Burgess, Rob Piercy and Kirsty Peden?
I'm online, Chair, from Lee.
I can see Lee, Harry and Lynn. So we'll move to... Do you have anything to add to the reports?
No, thank you, Chair. Very happy between the team to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'll move to members. Do members have any questions? Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Chair. Obviously, it's on the Community Safety Team report here. It's interesting, the breakdowns in the wards, dog fowl and you know, litter. It seems to be sort of standardised across the wards and that. Obviously, the rowdy behaviour in North West Dumfries is excessively high. I just wonder why that's excessively high. Also, as well, just wondering about the Community Safety Team what's the sort of numbers on the ground at various times, and an indication, obviously, that they are doing a good job, but they're fairly well spread across the region, and I believe they maybe go into other wards and in the west of the region as well. So maybe an explanation why the rowdy behaviour is so high in North West Dumfries. I know I've had a lot of antisocial behaviour recently at the Max High site. We recently had again at the weekend. I know Police Scotland and the Community Safety team are working. Just wonder why it's excessively high. Just wonder what we can target in the future there, please.
Over to you, folks.
Chair, I think Rob is on the call.
You pick this one up, Rob.
Yes, sorry, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Bell, for the question. The first one, why it's so high in North West Dumfries, the honest answer is I don't know. I think the Max High is a very good one to call out. So when we ask for these surveys to be filled in, quite often it can be dictated on what's going on at the time the surveys have been filled in, and the Max High issue is quite a big issue for a lot of local people in North West Dumfries. So I would hazard that may be why it's slightly higher over in that particular ward, although there are other issues as well. You're quite right, we work closely with the police when it comes to the antisocial behaviour activity, so if we get any actual individuals that are regularly involved in antisocial behaviour, there is action that we're able to take in that regard. As always, it's always the getting the people that are doing it which becomes the first problem to solve, and then we take it from there. As for numbers, so for the office in Dumfries, which is the East team, we have 4 community safety officers that would be regarded as what you would call patrolling officers. We cover obviously Nithsdale and Annandale and Nithsdale as well with those 4 officers. And we have 1 officer who is an antisocial behaviour specialist as well. So that's the officer that will cover the specific issues when we've got individuals that we're looking to take action against or work with, you know, to prevent further action or further escalation. We do have weekend evening shifts as well, which we've always had, but that now is on a every other weekend basis, just based on the numbers that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. You happy with that, Councillor
I am
Bell?
happy with what Rob said here. Obviously, you mentioned when talking about rowdy behaviour in Maxwell High, you know, a lot of time will be wasted on from the Police Scotland time and your time with the antisocial behaviour. If the council just secured the site for once for all, we'd have no issues with antisocial behaviour in that area, because at the end of the day, every second weekend I'm contacted. Last weekend, I believe Councillor Stevenson as well be inundated with phone calls. And it's wasting our time and wasting your time going out there. So hopefully the States Department will listen to this. They can actually get the fence secure for once for all.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bell. Councillor Dorward.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the report. With some questions on, is it page 66, 47 TC? Unemployed and active disadvantaged participants supported into employment, training and education regional. I know this is the first sort of bash at doing this, and the information is quite valuable, but I've got a couple of questions regarding the stats. You know, this is a Q1, April to June 2025. The service supported 1,268 clients across Dumfries and Galloway, with the relevant percentages going into employment, self-employment and a qualification. And in Nithsdale, it doesn't say how many were supported, but it says how many were getting into employment, etc., etc. So, what's the total in Nithsdale that were supported in the quarters? Unless I've missed it. It just says of the 104 individuals who were entered into employment, Q1, 42 were from Nithsdale. That's good, but it doesn't tell me the total who were supported in Nithsdale. And if you look at the totals who are being supported, there's something like 10% of that total that are actually going into employment, into self-employment or a qualification, period 1. Period 2, qualification but disappears and it's about moved into education. But I don't know what education, what that means. So is it college? Is it, you know, is it studying at home? Is it distance learning? Is it university? Is it, what is it? Is it apprenticeship? I don't know what that means. Again, it would be useful to know what that is, because, you know, I read with interest the report that was issued last year. I'm just getting it up on my phone, from DG Works, in terms of we have quite a high number of people who are inactive in Dumfries and Galloway. Now, I know that quite a lot of that is because people are retired, we have an ageing population, and we know about that through depopulation figures. We also have a lot of individuals who are off long-term sick. We have a lot of individuals who are carers. We have a lot of individuals who are perhaps not able to get back into work. So would it be possible to kind of maybe look at presenting information slightly differently? It's not a criticism, it's just an observation. I'm not criticising what's been done. And it's really good to see this information on paper. And also the amounts carried forward. So quarter 1, you've got 1,268 clients across Dumfries and Galloway being supported. Quarter 2, 1,369. Is that the same people being carried forward, or is it different people? So we're adding that up, so that's like obviously about 3,000 people. And then, you know, quarter 3 is another 1,447. Is that the same people going forward? Are we fishing the same pool, or are we actually adding more people on? Because if we're adding more people on, the percentages are getting lower and lower and lower as we go along, which isn't good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. There's quite a few questions there, so who wants to start picking them up?
That'll be me, I think.
Lynn.
Thank you,
Lynn.
Thank you for those questions. So I'll try and run through them all. First of all, that's just an omission on our part not to put in the numbers in Nithsdale. We can get that. We don't routinely collect this information, but we are using Power BI now to do that, so we can change that and make sure that that's counted the next time. The next question about education, it's all of those things, everything that you listed there. So this is the positive destinations are employment, education and training. We do have a difficulty in how we collect that information just now. So the positive destinations are a national measure. So it's education, employment, training as specified by Skills Development Scotland and by Scottish Government. But locally we have some training that is vocational training or short-term training that doesn't necessarily fall into that national measure. So we're working on that just now to understand that better. But basically everything you listed there would be counted within education and training. It's to do with accreditation and how long the training is. So I can provide more detail on that if that would be helpful as well. The question about DG Works and the inactive long-term health conditions, and these are an area of focus for us. So I guess it's maybe important to talk about DG Works and what it does. What we're doing is on top of what the Job Centre does. So Job Centre is a universal provision. It supports everybody it's primarily conditional, as you'll know, centrally controlled, and is focused on compliance with benefits. We work very closely with Job Centre, and a huge proportion of our referrals come from Job Centre, but No One Left Behind is a different programme. It's a flexible and inclusive programme. It focuses really on people who have barriers to employment. So it's people with everything you've listed, people who are disabled, people who are care experienced, people who have been long-term unemployed. So it takes a long time for people to move in. So if the percentages are low, it reflects the nature of the support. And that leads me to the numbers. The numbers are cumulative numbers, so it's the same people. It's not the exact same cohort. We obviously have people who move off into employment, and we have new referrals coming in, so there's on-flows and off-flows every quarter. But by and large, there's a number of people that are the same, and there's a recognition that some people take 1, 2, or even 4 years to get into work. We've had clients on as long as 4 years getting support. It's a long-term, inclusive, transformational programme, really. I think I've got all the questions, I hope.
Yes, you have. Thank you for that. I get the fact that getting folk back into employment can be cultural shifts, can be a long-term issue, and I congratulate team on doing that. It's just if it could be explained in terms of the numbers, the cumulative, like what that means, because you are fishing in the same pool with some additions. Even if it could say these have left, these are on, etc., etc. I know that's a bit more work, but I think it's a really important area. I totally agree with what you're saying. It's really important down here because we do have a larger amount of inactive individuals than Scotland, which isn't, you know, and given where we are in terms of employability, in terms of depopulation statistics, we want more people to stay here and get work here. It's not a blame thing, it's just an observation. The work you're doing is fantastic, but it would be really useful to have that information broken, sorry to be pedantic, broken down a little bit more so that it can be scrutinised a little bit more, if that makes sense. But I do appreciate it's the first time, so it's a really good report. It's just me being me and saying, could we get a little bit more information, please? Thank you so much. Thanks, Chair.
Oh, we have that. We're happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Darwood, and thank you, Lynn, for that. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Chair. It's on page 49, the Appendix 2, and it's probably one for Harry. It's to do with fly tipping. First of all, just to inform you, there has been a caravan dumped in the lay-by at the Aldgirth. It'd be good to get that removed before it gets put on fire. The other thing is, very pleased you've spent a large amount of hours, 104 hours, on fly tipping investigations. How many of those actually resulted in prosecutions? Because it seems to be very much an ever-increasing problem right across the nation.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Do you take that, Rob?
Yes, thank you for the question. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Wood. The caravan on the road near Aldgirth, that will be passed to roads colleagues. Caravans are uplifted by colleagues in roads, but I can make sure that that's passed through if they don't already know about that. Fly tipping, I don't have the numbers of fixed penalty notices or PF reports to hand. Fly tipping, as you might understand, is an incredibly difficult matter to deal with because finding evidence for who is responsible for the fly tipping is not straightforward, and it's certainly not easy, and no action can be taken against anyone who has committed an act of fly tipping if we don't have any evidence to follow up on. So all reports of fly tipping are investigated by the team. Any evidence is searched methodically to try and find any indication of where it may come from. But unfortunately, more often than not, it's simply a case of there is waste being dumped that needs to be removed. I can only assure you that any evidence that is located, any evidence that we can follow up on, is absolutely followed up on to the best of our ability, and prosecutions will follow if we do have the appropriate evidence for that.
Thank you for that, Rob. You want to come back in, Councillor Wood?
Yes, please, if you don't mind. It was really another follow-up on Mennick Pass is an annual bugbear to the elected members in Upper Nithsdale. Is there an action plan for this year?
Thank you, Councillor Wood. The community safety team are only responsible for enforcing the legislation, so any action plan for littering or waste would probably fall with community assets or the waste department. We will simply respond to offences. So if we witness a littering offence or we have evidence of a littering offence, we can issue fixed penalties. The same with a fly tipping offence. Most of the land up the Mennick Pass is Buccleuch state land. In any case, it will really be a matter for them to address. Councillor.
Thank you for that. Are you happy with that, Councillor Wood?
Yes, thank you very much.
Vice Chair, Councillor Dempster.
Thank you, Provost. Just one question along the lines, Councillor Dorward. It's on page 56 where we talk about number of physical activities sessions offered to those with disability, additional support needs, and number of participants on sessions for those with these challenges in their lives. And it goes on page 56 to outline the numbers, and in the bottom of the page it talks about increasing the target to 13,000 recognitions exceeding the target in previous 3 years. It also goes on to say the report on page 57, 3,000 in Nithsdale participants, so many males, so many females, so many junior participants and adults. What it doesn't say is what facilities were used, the frequency of sessions and the attendance. And I've had concerns in the past that some of these sessions were focused on one particular facility and it was causing people with disabilities and additional needs to travel some distance to access them. And if you look at page 59, you'll see quite clearly in the same report The individual museums, it shows quite clearly what participation numbers were and what the variances were. And I don't see why that can't be done with that. So if that comes in for a future report, Provost, I'd be grateful, because it'd be good to see what facilities are being used and the number of people accessing them, because what we should be trying to do is take the sessions to the people with disabilities and the additional support needs, no make them travel to get to sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dempster. Not sure if that's something that anyone needs to answer, apart from just could we have this included in future reports?
That's what I'd like to see, Provost, yeah.
I see some nods there, Councillor Dempster. Councillor Slater.
Thank you, Chair. It's about litter. Regarding today, Oakfield Drive, a number of these orange bins have blown over again. I haven't had time to report it, but maybe somebody's listening, maybe could maybe have a look at it. It's right alongside Oakfield Drive. It's the bins have obviously emptied right along the road, but
yeah, thank you, Councillor Slater. I'll pass that on to colleagues in the Waste Department. Sir.
Another question.
Yeah, no, but Councillor, that will get passed on, but that's actually a waste service issue. That's not for this committee.
Then, it's just that if somebody was maybe listening, but I'll report it anyway. But these orange bins are bad for getting blown over in the wind, with the plastic getting sprayed out in the roads sometimes. One other thing is Locher Moss tip is still closed. That might be something to do, maybe possibly.
That's not this committee neither, Councillor Slater.
Okay. Right, okay, we'll leave it at that then.
Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. Just as I'm looking at the report and the breakdown of it and we've obviously discussed North West and the rowdy behaviour, we've also got engagement activity of only 8%, and looking at the other figures, I would expect that to be slightly higher to try and address some of these problems kind of head on within the community and raise awareness of how the community can support us as well by reporting them in the right way. So I was just wondering how you break down the community engagement and where you pick where is the best place to engage with the community in the ward. I was also wondering as well if you could define what rowdy behaviour is. Harking back to my youth. But no, rowdy behaviour, you know, I'm just thinking along the lines, and I know the councillors in North West will have this as well, but we get a huge amount of complaints about e-bikes and e-scooters and off-road scooters that shouldn't be used, and a lot of that comes down the cycle path and Glentrail Park and up at the Max High site as well. And these bikes are extremely dangerous. I know my own daughter ended up in a bit of a kerfuffle with one at the weekend, and it knocked her off her bike. And she was actually quite badly bruised from it. And the other thing is, some of these figures, are they repeat offenders? Do you find that? Is it the same kind of people that are causing the issues? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Stevenson. Who would like to pick that up? Is that you, Rob?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll answer that. Thank you, Councillor Stevenson, for the question. The engagement activity, I will have to concede. We are the information, the way that we now collate the information is new, and I suspect that we have not caught all engagement activity. So what's probably down there is the engagement days we do in the summer with our trailer, so I know you're aware of. They will all be caught, but our engagement specialist, Andrew Hay, who's my co-pilot in the west of the region, he visits schools on a regular basis, both primary and secondary schools throughout the region. I suspect we're not capturing that in the correct manner. So I would hope that the number would increase significantly over a period of time. With rowdy behaviour, we've deliberately left it, I hesitate to use the word vague, but it is vague, simply because we could put a list a mile long on what type of behaviour might be causing an issue. And obviously for the purposes of the survey that we put out, the longer and more complicated it is, the less likely people are to engage because they don't want to, obviously. When it comes to e-bikes and scooters, there's very little, certainly, that the community safety team can actively do. beyond just having a presence in any area where there are issues. Police colleagues would possibly be able to do a wee bit more. There's obviously legal issues depending on the speed of the actual bike and whatnot. So I hate to harp back to the more information we've got, the more likely we are to be in an area, the more likely we are to have an impact. So it is important that we get that, as much accurate information as we can. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Rob. You want to come back in, Councillor Stevenson?
Yeah, sorry, it was just to see how many, and this is for the whole area, not just North Western Fleece, but how many of these people are actually repeat offenders. And I was just thinking, with the engagement activities, there is nobody that pressurises anybody as much as a young child when it comes to issues. And I just wondered if, we're maybe feeding information to them, because they'll certainly take it home to their parents, as I know a wee bit too well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. It's all the engagement activity that Andy does is based on primary school and young secondary school, and it's exactly that. It's the if your wee one comes home and starts talking about things, it makes you think about it a little bit more. Repeat offenders, off the top of my head, I can only think of one that we've had done a repeat, and that's for dog fouling. It's touch wood. We. Usually speaking, I'd like to think when we've prosecuted someone for something, then they've potentially learnt their lesson.
Thank you for that, Rob. And I think you're right, Councillor Stevenson. There's nobody more militant than young children. Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks very much, Provost. I'm referring to page 54, 38 TC, number of adult participants. What I'm wondering here is, why is swimming not included in this? Because I use the warm waters in the training pool after a recommendation from GP and from the NHS, because there's 20 up to 25, I think it is, people per session twice a week participating in that. You would meet the target in that alone. Is there a reason why it's not recorded here? It's either there on that or over the page. In the next one, with disability additional support needs, because it's quite clear at the swimming pool DG1 that some people with a limited disability or forms of support need actually get in the big pool with supervision, but there's a lot actually come in with wheelchair access and everything else into the small pool. So I'm just wondering why swimming isn't included in this. Because there's probably more swimmers than anything else, I would suggest, over the period for people who work with the NHS. Just it's a query for me. It seems an anomaly.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Who wishes to pick that one up?
Thank you, Chair. I'll take that one. Thanks, Councillor Ferguson. So a couple of points to raise on that one. So when anyone is referred from one of our NHS colleagues, and that can be GP, that can be cardiac rehab, that can be physio, that can be any number of practitioners that are seeing clients, and they're then referred through to us for the point of triage. Where it's a one-to-one, the majority of those do end up in a gym-based session. However, during that initial consultation, if water-based activity is deemed to be the best for that individual, then that is the option that can be offered to them. The example that you're referring to, however, in terms of the group session, I understand that the majority of those participants that are taking part in that are actually not referred to us through the referral process that we have, where we have the detailed referral form comes in for a point of triage. They are essentially a separate process, providing a very worthwhile activity for those people who will benefit from that warm water activity, but it's not classed as the official exercise referral that is coming in. I'm happy to go back and raise that with our health colleagues that are part of our group, Councillor Ferguson, because it may be that there may be some merit in them being classed as a formal referral, but that's not how they are at this moment in time. Thanks.
Okay. Can I come back in, Provost? Yeah. Well,
Certainly.
actually, I was referred by the NHS physio, and to get into that session, you have to qualify. All right, so there has to be somebody who's recommended or referred you. So that's what I'm saying. It seems an anomaly, Lee, and I'm happy to leave it in your hands, because I know that you'll progress that and have a look at that and see exactly. But the number stands good right across the region. Number of people who actually go swimming as a physical activity recommended to them by their GP and everything else. So I think maybe we need to tweak this a wee bit and just actually have anybody who's got a medical condition who's getting benefit from this, rather than being referred to by a GP, because a lot of GPs are still in the dark ages when it comes to social prescribing. Yeah, okay, but I'll leave that in your hands, Lee.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Provost. So this report on page 50 for Abbey Ward gives dog fouling as an issue of 72%. We've actually had a project in the Stewartry part of Abbey Ward, which has already been successful in reducing dog fouling in public spaces. But one of the issues that we've actually got is quite a lot of the signage on the lamppost is quite old. It's peeling off. We've actually got one sign that gives the old Dumfries and Galloway website and probably an old level of fine, but it actually tells you what to do to report it if you see somebody let their dog foul and not getting picked up. So I'm just wondering, given that we don't want to litter the lampposts with signs, but if they're old and they're peeling off and they're not clear, if that's just something that can be done over a period of time across all our communities, so people will see that more and more, both those who have dogs and those who maybe see something happening, just to kind of make it a lot clearer, because the old signage really maybe isn't doing, particularly a little bit of grass along a bit of road where there's a problem, is whether we can make sure the signage is clearer. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Lowe. I see, Rob, you've just popped back up again, so I'm assuming you wish to take this one.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Lowe. That's absolutely something that we can address. I think thankfully you've pointed out it might take a wee bit of time. There have been signs throughout the region for various things posted up for years and years and years, well before I was even at the council. So what we would normally do in that situation is clean a sign that's already on there if it's in good condition and put a new sticker over it, and that sticker has a QR code and an instruction on how you can report dog fouling issues if you follow that. We can also take down damaged signs and re-erect new signage. I will point out we don't like to put lots and lots of signage up. We don't have a budget line for that, so we only have a small amount of signs every year. So what we're trying to do is, with the QR code and with a smaller amount of information, is using modern technology, trying to get people to report issues to us in that manner. But no, I will ask the team to address that the next time they're in New Abbey, and we can get them refreshed for you. Thank you.
Sorry, if I could just come back, just confirm it's actually Dalbeattie where our project is, and the conversation that's come from the successful project has been, what can we now do about the streets? So there's quite a lot of the social media stuff going on. So even just through those comms, just to kind of clarify what the rules are. But I'm sure that will be in process.
Thank you. Councillor Hislop.
Going back to the physical activity sessions referred from NHS, if you look at the performance information on page 54, now my understanding is first year was 5 months because it started in November 23, and I take it's based on the financial year 23-24. You're averaging about 100 per month. Year 2 drops to about 60 for round figures. This year we're down at 259. I take it that's just part year as well, so we might get, it says expected to meet the target of 400, so you're down to under 40 per month. Is it the case that there are certain times in the year where you actually have a spike of referrals? Because, you know, if the early months of this year might shoot the numbers up, and the 24, 25, the later months of August, etc., might reduce the numbers that are going forward. Is there a reason why it's dropping? If not, and within the thing, we've got 62 people who participated in Nithsdale in free gym-based health behavioural change, and 115 participants in the community-based, 57 from Nithsdale in the community-based group classes. How many of those people actually changed their lifestyle or etc. and maintain going to the fitness to keep up that level? One thing I see in Facebook is I'd rather be the oldest man in the gym than a young man in the cemetery. So are people keeping going?
Thanks. That one for you, Lee?
Yes, it is, Chair, thank you. So just for members' clarity, and thank you, Councillor Hislop, for giving me the in on this one. So the performance information within the table that you referred to, that's actually the regional, because this is a regional indicator. So they are regional figures, but you're correct. In the bullets underneath that table, we have presented what the Nithsdale contribution is to that for this year. So the 259 for the current financial year is based on the first 6 months of this year, because this is what this report today is about, the first 6 months performance reporting, and the bullets underneath show you the Nithsdale performance for those first 6 months. In terms of the peaks and troughs throughout the year, I don't have that detail in front of me, but I'm very happy to send to Councillor Hislop and members of the committee a breakdown that shows the sort of flow across the year of when our referrals come in, to show when those peaks and troughs are. There definitely is an element of seasonality to that. There's also an element of awareness raising when we are continuing to engage with health professionals about their knowledge and understanding of this option being available to them. The other points that you referred to, Councillor Hislop, actually similar to colleagues in another area committee raised just last week as well, in terms of the number of referrals we get, the number of those that then transfer into actual being motivated to attend the sessions and then indeed complete the sessions, and whether that is they continue to be active themselves within their own lifestyle, or whether that's they're active because they choose to take out a membership, which for us is fantastic, increases our usage numbers. That's something that I hear now from 2 area committees that would be welcome. So in the future performance reporting, I will look that we will present to you a breakdown of not only the referral numbers, how many made it through to the actual starting of the programme, and then how many made it through to the end of the programme, because there are elements of breakdown, depends upon an individual's desire to commit to being able to complete that activity. Thank you.
It's just with regard to the peaks and troughs. If you look at the numbers on the page and you base it on the information given, it looks like we're getting less referrals. It was just to see if the peaks and troughs affected the number, because if you've got the 5 months over winter in the first year at 100 per month on average, you drop to 60, and if you take it over 6 months, you drop to 40 for the top one. And it was just to see if it's a case, are we getting the referrals, or is it a case of the peaks and troughs are leaving themselves out over the year and there'll be about the same amount of referrals every year? That was my interest in that one specifically. So if that information can be sort of forwarded to members, I'd be quite happy with that.
Thanks, Councillor Hislop. Do you want to come in, Lee?
Just, I'm happy to do that, Chair. The final point I would just add for Councillor Hislop and colleagues' benefit is that we have, during the first 6 months of this year, had a review process with our health colleagues, because we've had a number of inappropriate referrals that haven't actually been meeting the referral standards, and it's not someone that is necessarily needing or qualifying for a referral, and a number of those referrals have then had to be returned. So that has skewed those figures to a degree, but we've now got a clearer process with our health colleagues as to what is the appropriate threshold for a referral. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stett.
Thanks, Chair. I'll go back to page 50, rowdy behaviour in the Abbey ward. There's been a regular tender at community council stretching for New Abbey right round the coast. I can't see 14% of rowdy behaviour coming from them wee villages. Maybe Rob's still there. Does this include Dalbeattie? Because I think the only bit you'll get rowdy behaviour in the Abbey ward east side will be Southern East during the summer when it's busy. I just feel the figure of 14% for Abbey seems awfully big for rowdy behaviour. And a follow-up to that is, I'll wait till you answer this because I'll bring something else.
No worries, Councillor Stitt. Rob, can you answer that?
Yep, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Stitt. It is just the Nithsdale side, the Abbey ward. It's all the information is just directly off the survey, and we're able to narrow that down based on postcode.
Thanks for that, Rob. Just a wee query. I've raised something with my ward workers yesterday. I don't know if it'll be a thing in the future, but in Dalbeattie, I noticed on the Stewartry side, I had to report that Slater's fun fairs in the town this week, and everything it doesn't move in Dalbeattie is littered with fly posting, advertising the fun fair for telegraph poles to electric chambers, empty shops. I don't know if there's been any complaints in the Nithsdale side, but I've reported this in my ward work and she's passed it on. It's an eyesore when you walk around Dalbeattie and everything it doesn't move stuck up with posters.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. It's not something I'm aware of having complaints about, certainly here. If fly posting on lampposts or street furniture things would really be a matter for roads, and we would obviously assist road colleagues because we're out and about a bit more. So if they require us to remove anything, then we could certainly do so. But that request would need to come from roads colleagues, Councillor.
That's fine, thanks.
Can I suggest, Councillor Stitt, it might help? Community payback are very helpful and have helped me in the past coming out and getting rid of stuff that's it's irresponsible spray paint and whatever. And I know you've done your thing, but it's just another suggestion.
No, thanks for that. No, it's quite, I don't know what's got to happen, but where I stay in Dalbeattie, space of 100 yards, there's 11 different posters stuck in everything. And that's just in a street, in the high streets and eyesore.
Community paybacks, your folk, they're good.
Also, when they're there, they're all nice and bright and colourful, a bit of rain on it, and then you just got ended up with these whole tatty things everywhere. Any other members have any more questions? So we move to recommendations. So members were asked to scrutinise the performance of the selected success measures and projects as summarised in paragraphs 4.3 to 4.4 and detailed in appendices 1 to 10. So, item number 6. Now, this report allows the opportunity to scrutinise the performance of our selected success measures and projects for enabling and customer services. Again, another report which details all the information we requested to see. It's really encouraging to see the number of new library memberships spiked when we reopened the Ewart Library. So, I think we have... Do we have Elaine Muir, James McDowell, Lorna Campbell and Stuart Clanahan here on Teams? We've got Elaine, we've got... Yeah, there they go, all of you there. Thank you very much. Do you have anything to add to the report? No? Okay, so I'll open it up to members. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, it's on, is it 9CD, percentage of leavers offered an exit interview. I would have thought it would be quite easy to offer an interview. Whether they take it up or not, it's a different thing. So why is it still at 30% who have been offered rather than 100% offered? Maybe 30% took it up, but you know, it would seem easy if somebody's retiring or going elsewhere, just say, would you like
Okay, who wishes to take that one up?
I can come in on that. Absolutely. So just to answer the sort of question that was put in front of us there, absolutely, it should be an easy ask. So as you can see there, it moved from 9% up to 32%. With the changes we put in with regards to a process of the lever form. So we made sure there was a field on the lever form for managers to fill in, you know, to ask the question of, would you like an exit interview? We've moved that a step further, Councillor Hislop, and we've automated it. So absolutely, the next time we come here, 100% will be the percentage of offers, because we've put it in. There's two ways that people get final correspondence from the organisation. It's either via email or it's in post. So in both occasions, an offer will be enclosed within that. So absolutely 100% as we move forward. Whether they take it up or not, so, as you said there, it's voluntary and it's up to each individual to do that. But for the offer, that is fully automated as we move forward.
Thank you, James. You happy with that, Councillor Hislop? Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. It's just at 3.6 in the amount of people we've prevented from evictions. I was just wondering if you could break down in what way we could help prevent the evictions and kind of where we might need to work on. Thank you.
Is that Lorna? Is that you for that one?
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Stevenson. The way we measure prevention of evictions at the moment is where there's been intervention by the landlord and they've started the eviction process. But we do work with a number of landlords and support organisations to make referrals at an earlier stage. So, you know, we do try and intervene before there's actual threat of eviction. So we have been working with any support organisation, and landlords say, come to us sooner rather than later, because it's far easier then to help, particularly bearing in mind that the Welfare and Housing Options teams only deal with the financial side. Obviously the Homeless Service still work with homeless prevention for other reasons, but certainly when it's a financial issue where it's based on rent arrears, we ask them to approach us as soon as possible, because we can then maximise things like discretionary housing payments, Scottish Welfare Fund, to support tenants to sustain that tenancy if it's purely down to financial reasons.
You want to come back in, Councillor Stevenson?
Yeah, thank you. And how much of that information is passed to private landlords, and how available is it for them? Just to know that that's obviously a big issue for private landlords is rental arrears. Thank you.
We do as much as we can to publicise the work of the Welfare and Housing Options team, because it's not just social landlords it's available to. You know, accessing discretionary housing payments and Scottish Welfare Fund is also available to private tenants. And so it's probably through support organisations and work with social work as well, where there's vulnerable individuals that are in private tenancies. We do make them aware that is available and work with them where possible. But there's always more work we can do. We do work with landlord registration as well for them to make sure that word is out and about, to contact us where we can support.
Thank you for that, Lorna. Any more questions from members? Councillor Hislop?
I'll just ask a question, because something was raised last night at Tinnell Parish Council about trying to get contact with people. 4.842, number of people in flexible working arrangements. We've exceeded our target. Now, when the public are phoning up to speak to someone, can't get them because, well, we only operate Tuesday and Thursday 10 till 2. Yes, it's good for the workforce, but what about customer satisfaction when that person may be a working person and has taken a day off to do some project, to get in touch with the council and can't get hold of them? So are we seeing, although we're making life good for our staff, are we seeing customer complaints going up because they can't get in touch with us?
Stuart, you wish to answer this one?
Thanks for that, Chair. Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor. I mean, I wouldn't have the customer complaints information to kind of provide there, but I think what we do know is that flexible working is a really strong recruitment and retention tool, and it's now a top decision for people when they factor in coming to our organisation and also staying in our organisation. I think ultimately as well, regardless of flexible working, so if you put flexible working to the side for a minute, all managers and team leaders and supervisors, we all have to manage services in the way that we're required to, which is to provide those services to our communities. So regardless of the level of flexible working within a particular service, there's still very clear responsibilities to ensure that the public and the communities receive the services that we've committed to through our council priorities. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Stuart. Is that us? No more questions from members? Okay, we'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to scrutinise the performance of the selected success measures and projects as summarised in paragraphs 4.3 to 4.8. Item number 7, our final directorate report gives us the opportunity to scrutinise the performance of our selected success measures and projects for social work services. I note that pressures on the homelessness system remain very high. So I think we have Janice Hastie on Teams to answer. Oh no, we've got Heather. Do we have Janice today? No? Yep,
Janice,
got Janice as well.
yes.
Yeah, got Janice as well. Hello, Janice. Sorry.
Hi there.
So any member questions? Do you have anything to add to the report first?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I'll open it up to members. Any questions? No, nothing online, nothing in the room. Yeah, that's a good one for you, ladies.
That's very easy, yes,
Yeah,
thank
that was
you.
an easy morning. Okay, if there's nothing, I'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to 1, scrutinise the performance report on selected success measures and projects for the Nithsdale area for 1st of October 2025 to the 31st of December 2025 as set out in paragraph 4.4. 2, consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements sections of this report, and consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Thank you very much, ladies. So we move on to agenda item 8. Local place plan update and registrations. Now, our next report asks that we consider adding the Closeburn, Heath Hall, Kirkmahoe, Ladyfield, Thornhill, Torthorald and Wanlock Head local place plans to the register of local place plans. These plans are all of really good quality, and I'd like to thank the local groups involved in bringing these plans forward. This takes a lot of time and effort to get to this stage, and again I want to thank you all. Shona McCoy is on Teams to answer any member questions or address any member comments. Hello Shona, do you have anything to add to the report?
Thanks, Chair. Just to add, actually I realise it's my fault that the Wanlock Head local place plan, which is referred to in the first paragraph.
Can't hear you, Shona.
Apologies, is that better?
Yes.
Sorry, I was listening in and had the microphone up. It's my fault with the report that the first paragraph refers to Wanlock Head local place plan, but they weren't quite ready to bring it forward to this round of area committee. So it has been taken off the recommendations, but I'd forgotten to take it off the first paragraph. So you can maybe record that as an error in the report.
No, thank you very much for
Thanks,
that
Chair.
update, Shona. Thank you. So I'll open it up to members. Any questions from members? Councillor Barretti.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for these reports, Shona. It's in relation to the Closeburn local place plan. I'm very pleased that it's come forward and that the community have managed to put together what is a very comprehensive and very detailed report. And it's interesting that in one of the pages, I think it's 104, they do note that 18.4% of children living in poverty in Dumfries and Galway, and Closeburn is part of that. I noticed that in theme 2 on page 123, the first highlight is the shop, cafe and warm hub. So every community that I've seen that has this type of setup does improve and does do well, and the community adhesion is much, much better. So I recommend the report and I'm very pleased with it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Barretti. Councillor Dorward.
Thank you, Chair. It's a comment, not a question. Just to say thanks, Shona, to you and your team for supporting community councils through these quite onerous processes. I think they found that, and I'm being parochial slightly, but I think it's great to see 3 Locher community councils, Heathhall, Kirkmahoe and Trethoral in there with their place plans. They've really embraced it. From my experience, they've really embraced the process, and I'll pass on their thanks to you and your team, and also to our ward officer, Derek Hextall, for their support. But you got to be in it to win it, don't you? And I think that's the sort of the way that it goes. So again, I think it's just to congratulations to all community councils that and no issues with the plans from my perspective today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's not a question. I would just, as regarding Ladyfield, it's in my ward. It's a very important part of the ward as well. So I'd just like to read a little bit of, you could say a story about it as such. Am I able to do that? It's about Ladyfield, and it's about their plan as well.
But we have all the plans and all the different
Well, I just
plans
want to answer some questions on the plans.
But if you want to ask them questions,
well,
not do a speech about the plan, because we all know the plans,
well,
Councillor
other people
Slater.
will be able to speak sometimes.
Sorry?
Other people in some committees have been able to raise issues or speak.
But you're not raising an issue.
I would just like to speak on behalf of the people of that ward, Ladyfield.
But I'm still not sure what your reason behind that, because all the
Well,
place plans, we've got some excellent place plans, and Ladyfield's another excellent place plan with some excellent work that's been done by the community groups, and we all acknowledge all of them. So I don't know what the benefit of I don't want to shut you down, Councillor Slater, but I don't know the benefit. You're talking over the top of me. You're talking over the top of me. You're talking over the top of me. Excuse me, Councillor Slater. I don't know what your benefit of coming forward and to do a speech about a plan that we all know is an excellent plan, and we all acknowledge that.
I just want to make some comments for the people of Ladyfield and the people who have taken their time to write all this up. I would just like in some ways to raise a few points within it.
Well, I'll take it that I'll acknowledge that you've raised the issue about how well that the people have worked to bring this plan forward. Yeah. Sorry. I've had a suggestion from the Vice Chair that if you want to circulate that to the members afterwards, they'd be quite willing, as everyone would be quite willing to see that. But I don't think it needs to be raised just now. There's no questions attached to it, and all the plans are excellent plans, and all that we have forward here, and we are acknowledging the hard work that's done, and really appreciate your commitment and your support of that. And I'm sure that the members of that area appreciate that too.
Well, if I can't read it, okay. It was about, obviously, what the people were concerned about. Although they've written a very, very good report, they have some concerns, and that's what I want to do. But I'm the local councillor, so I will just leave it at that today, then, if that's okay. And I'll use another method for people to read it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Slater. Any other no questions? Okay, we'll move to recommendations. Members were asked to... Oh, it's Councillor Barretti, do you want in? Sorry.
Yeah, just finally, I hadn't forgotten about the Thornhill Place plan, because it was also, as Vice Chair knows, in their ward, but I also recommend this place plan because I know how hard the team have worked on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. So move to recommendations. Now members are asked to 1. Note the Closeburn, Heath Hall, Kirkmahoe, Ladyfield, Thornhill and Turthorold local place plan. Supporting statements, appendices 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and 11. Demonstrate that the local place plan legislative requirements have been met. 2. Agree that the Closeburn, Heath Hall, Kirkmahoe, Ladyfield, Thornhill and Turthorold local place plans, appendix 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12 are registered by the Council as local place plans and are added to the local place plan register on the Council's website. And 3, note the progress being made by the community bodies in the Nithsdale area who have expressed an interest in preparing a local place plan set out in paragraphs 4.32. Thank you, members. We'll move on to agenda item 9. Addressing depopulation in Nithsdale, report by Executive Director Enabling Customer Services. So this report presents findings from the Addressing Depopulation research and outlines key population and demographic trends within the Nithsdale area. I find this report interesting, members, I'm sure you all do, and it's good to have such a good level of detail within the report. The full council meeting scheduled for the 26th of March 26 will consider the overall findings from the research programme along with input from these area committee discussions. Andy Reid is on Teams. Do we have Andy on Teams to answer any member questions? Not currently. Do we have anyone to answer any questions? Okay. Oh. Councillor Sitter, if you're going to ask a question about it, unfortunately we don't have an officer here to answer any questions as yet. So I think what I'll do is I'll move on to the next item and then come back in the hope that maybe someone's having problems getting onto the line. So we'll go on to agenda item 10, Nithsdale Area Committee Discretionary Budget Monitoring Report. Our next item is the annual Nithsdale Area Committee Discretionary Budget Monitoring Report 25-26. So this annual report, members will be pleased to see that once again in the investment of this fund in key local and community initiatives has directly benefited more than 20,000 citizens this past year. Helped protect 14 community centres and village halls with support for their increased utility bills, supported 12 groups to brighten up their community with flowers and plants through the Community Planting Fund, and supported resilience across 9 communities and defibrillator maintenance grants. Members will note that due to the timing of the Nithsdale Sports Grant allocations based on 2 separate funding rounds, some monitoring information is not yet due and will be reported to a future committee. But it's great to see how this fund is supporting our athletes and sporting organisations to achieve their sporting goals. Now we've got Derek Hextall available on Teams to answer any member questions. Derek, do you have anything to add to the report?
Afternoon, Chair. Afternoon, members. Just a brief update. I know in the appendix at page 406, Sanka Riding of the Marches hadn't submitted their monitoring by the time the drafts were due, but they have now submitted it and it is satisfactory. Chairs, but I'm happy to circulate that appendix to members and seek governance advice about including it in the final report.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. I've had the nod from Claire, so that's great. We all want the nod from Claire. So I'll put it out to members. Do any members have any questions? Councillor Stitt.
Thanks, Chair. It's on, excuse me, page 400 about the Nithsdale Sports Grants. I'm actually chair of the Stewardship Sports Council. It's actually good to see the amount of grants being paid. Can I ask you how there's certain, it goes 1, 2, 4, 6, seem to be some missing. Is that just a typo or is it certain reasons for it? Because it goes from up 20 right up to 35, but then from 1 to 19 there's about 5 or 6 different missing. I don't know, maybe I'm just being pernickety, but just the way you're looking at it.
All right, I'll hand that over to you, Derek.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Stitt. So every application that we receive receives a reference number. Not every applicant then progresses. Some withdraw, some receive a nil award. So the ones that you're seeing there are the ones who have received awards. So the ones that are missing are potentially the ones that have either withdrawn or have not received an award. Hopefully that helps, Councillor Stitt.
That's fine. Thanks, Derek.
Thanks for that. Any other members? No? Right, thanks Derek. I'll just move to recommendations. So members are asked to 1, note the performance monitoring information from projects initiatives that received support from the Nithsdale Area Committee discretionary budget in 25-26. Note that over 20,000 citizens have directly benefited from the delivery of the key local projects and initiatives, with wider community benefit evident across the local Nithsdale area. And 3, agree to carry forward the remaining £21,106.28 underspend to the discretionary budget 26-27 as detailed in paragraphs 4.11 and 4.12. Thank you. So I'm going to attempt to go back to agenda item 9. And I believe that the officer is on their way, and I was wondering if Andy Reid is in the room or virtual room yet.
Chair, I'm assuming that he's going to be in person, as he was advising he's on his way down. So.
Okay then. Well, I think as he's on his way to move on with the committee, I think we're move to the exempt item unless the members want to take a 10-minute recess.
No, just move on.
No problem. Thank you very much for coming along. So, Andy, do you have anything to add to the report, firstly?
No, nothing to add, but put on record my apologies.
No worries. So I'll put it out to members. I think Councillor Slater, you had wanted in.
No, I could just leave that now, Councillor. Thank you. Leave it now.
Okay, any other members? Councillor Hislop.
Chair, this might sound a funny way of asking this, but housing, the availability, affordability and quality of housing play a major role in population change. Now, I don't know if it's across the board, but anecdotally I've heard that more elderly people are seeing Dumfries and Galloway as a place to move to from down south because A, the housing's cheaper up here, therefore we buy a cheap house, we sell our more expensive house down south, we've got a nice little nest egg, plus we get free healthcare, etc. And they aren't going to repopulate because naturally they're beyond that sort of age. And it means affordable housing might actually be a problem rather than unaffordable housing. And I would say the biggest issue we have is people want a job of good standing and they also want facilities because young people now like the opportunity to move to the big city because you've got concerts, you've got better selection of nightlife activities, you name it. And that comes from a healthy economy. And if we get that down here whereby people are wanting to move here because they can see jobs, that'll bring a better economy. Therefore, it'll roll out onto your facilities that are here. So, yes, there are things in here they all add up to it, but I think the economy is the most important one. And how do you actually push that? Because you're at the stage where we have a reduced number of younger people here, so businesses look to where are there more people staying. London, Glasgow, Edinburgh, all the big towns benefit from that. We don't. So how do we change that?
Thanks, Councillor Hislop. Over to you, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Hislop. I'll pick up a couple of points sort of in relation to the older people moving here from out with the region, and that is demonstrated within the migration stats as well as the demographic change that there has been that sort of drive with the 55 plus and the early retirement sort of groupings, and that's sort of been impacted post-COVID where people have made a life decision. And obviously, I think you picked up there in relation to the affordability for people out with the region. It's more affordable, but obviously what we're referencing there is for the ability for people to stay in the region that have salaries within the region to be more affordable for people living and working in the region. You correctly pick up in relation to the economy, more jobs provide more opportunity, more employment, better salaries, and therefore that sort of does work across that point. I suppose that the challenge that we have in relation to the 6 factors which have been identified is that it's not just one factor that drives it, recognising that you could start at economy, or you could start at, some people coming here for work and employment, but they're struggling to find accommodation to stay in the region to sort of live, as opposed to that they could work here or have employment here, but they would live out elsewhere because the accessibility to housing's there. In relation to the sort of the younger sort of people and the working age and young families, I think we picked up, and it was probably the insight that came through strongest is that sense of community, that social interaction. Where do we meet people? Where do we interact? Where's our social aspects? And over the reports, it highlighted that we do very well with the under-18s, with formal activity through youth work, and for the over sort of 55, 60s, formal activities for older people, but it's that younger grouping. I don't have a specific answer. I mean, what we're looking at in relation to employment is inward investment, more businesses. What did come through the reports is that we shouldn't just solely chase large employment, and that the support for micro businesses, smaller businesses, and also in relation to the young farmers sort of grouping in agricultural groups, because that's where our strengths lie. As I say, there is no one sort of silver bullet that solves this, and when we look at different communities will have a different gap within those 6 factors. So it's aligning it with sort of the place planning and understanding where that gap and where we can have that interaction.
Thanks, Andy. You're right with that, Councillor Hislop? It's kind of chicken and egg, isn't it? Sort of. Councillor Stett.
Thanks, Chair. Just thank Andy for a brilliant report, but in item 4.12, transport, I think that's still a big problem in our area. We have limited bus companies that can take on contracts, and I think if we had better transport links, I know some towns have got great links, other towns and villages haven't. I think that would maybe compensate a lot of folk maybe coming back to the area for looking at employment. Although employment's not great in Dumfries and Galloway, but we have got some, as you say there, smaller companies are welcome. I know in our area there's a lot of small companies that employ a lot of people, but I think transport is one of the key things that's a problem in our area.
Thanks, Councillor Stitt. And it's recognised within the report the challenge, and transport plays a key role in how people access those other factors, the employment, the housing, education, and so forth. So yeah, that comes through in the report about how we have regularity and confidence within the transport network. If I take somewhere like Cross Michael, which was highlighted as a sort of an area bucking the trend in relation to demand and population, and the education, it's got a regular bus that comes through that takes it to additional services which sit at Castle Douglas, and then vice versa along the 75 in relation to access and additional services. So that confidence within transport increases the accessibility.
You okay with that, Councillor Stepp? Okay. Councillor Slater.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Andy, I must admit, how do you find that AI will affect this? I agree with my colleague here that people are retiring here and there's no families coming along, and they obviously need more assets or places for things to do, and it's a well-known fact in the world. a lot of migration is going to people who are living in cities now. So they are. But obviously AI will come a point where someone may live out with the area but still be able to work here. That's probably where my question's coming from. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Slater. In relation to AI, and specifically, I think you're picking up the agile working model, and I think that we should consider how we turn that on its head, how people can live here and work elsewhere. So, you know, they don't have to be in the city and dealing with that urbanisation, and actually being here and being able to access the, you know, employment elsewhere within the, you know, Scotland and the UK as a whole provides us with a unique opportunity.
Councillor Barretti.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Andy. It's already been mentioned in part by Councillor Hislop, the issue of housing, and on page 38349, affordability. The second component of that is, to me, one of the major issues of anyone who wishes to purchase a property. And I don't know if study, Andy, has been done on the types of building construction and the ages of which ones are moving forward towards retrofitting for the modern age. Clearly, we're looking at not achieving passive house status, but we're looking at going towards, because that is a cost implication which not a lot of families, and certainly not a lot of young families, if they're just starting out in life and with a family in the making or thinking of it, they can actually afford. And does that then mean that the buildings that are left, which may or may not be Victorian, Georgian, early 20th century, are not really suitable for a lot of the changes that need to be done to the properties to make them livable and energy efficient? And clearly, one of the other issues that I see, and maybe the report doesn't report this, but it's the cost of the technologies and the complexity of the technologies, whether it's from electrical side or whether it's from the actual building structure side, that people are not certain what to put in, which is the most efficient, which is the most cost productive, which is the most environmentally friendly, and which would have the shorter payback period. I know it's a complex question, Andy, but it's something that we have tackled in council at different communities and different committees, and as we know. But thank you, Andy. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Barretti. You rightly pick out the challenge in relation to the housing stock and the quality of the housing stock. We've got an ageing sort of houses across the region, and to bring them up to standard is expensive. And we've seen that in the private rented sector, where legislation that's come down from governments to basically improve the quality of housing is extremely costly, and therefore small-scale private landlords are leaving the market. In relation to the sort of the house production, once again, I mean, the report's quite clear that it's more expensive to build a house in Dumfries and Galloway to the standards than it is to cost in producing or building a house within the central belt. There is no sort of single sort of answer in relation to this one. This does come back to an element of what do we as a council control, and what do we look at what we lobby on and for additional investment. And I'm sure Jamie Little will be sort of covering those sort of topics as he works through the sort of the housing sector. I think that's sort of it in relation to that question.
Thanks, Andy. Are you okay with that, Councillor Barretti?
Yes, in the sense that we've been exposed to a lot of these problems over the last 5, 6, 7 years in society, and they're not getting easier, and more likely they're going to get more difficult. and more likely the cost implications are going to spiral probably upwards, but maybe not the same impact it'll have on every single member of society, depending on what their financial status is. So, but yes, I agree with Andy on what he said. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Vice Chair, Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Provost. This report, Andy, it asks us to note the progress addressing depopulation research, and that's what this document obviously is. It doesn't offer a solution, it identifies issues, and I'm sure what I'm going to say will reflect, or other members across the region will see the same thing. On page 383, I could just about take every highlighted issue and say this affects my ward. Housing, it's the wrong type now because it was built for mining industries and big families, 75 years old and older, so it's no modern in terms of energy efficiency. Employment, we're in a remote rural location, most of us. There are no employment opportunities. We have 2 major businesses in the whole of Midge and Upper Nithsdale. Everybody else has to travel to work. We're driving to shut small schools. That seems to be the official line. I don't say it's members' lines, but in doing that, we remove an incentive to bring families into our communities. Transport, I can't get a bus after 5 o'clock at night anywhere, in any direction where I live, and none on a Saturday and Sunday. How can we expect kids to travel to work, or even adults travel to work, when there's no opportunity to get there? We struggle across the region finding health professionals to deliver health care. I know that's no reflection on the health board, which is great, and the hospitals are great. I'm talking about local surgeries and social interactions for young people is impossible because they can't get out the village or the town they live in. So it's a good report. It highlights us what the issues are. I'd be more interested in the solutions, Andrew, and that's no reflection on you. It is a good report, and I'm pleased because we need to put into the press and into the public domain what the issues are, because without highlighting them, we can't actually fix them. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Councillor Dempster. You're absolutely right. In relation to the thing, obviously, I would always highlight that depopulation and demographic change has happened over a period of 10 years, and to try and turn that around, within sort of a very short period. So what we will do, on the back of this is we look at the policy interventions from the best interventions sort of paper that gives us an idea of what potentially can have good interventions going forward. The report coming to full council on the 26th of March, that will be where we sort of discuss what are our first steps in looking at tackling it. So the idea obviously today is to go through with the understanding of the research with the meeting on the 26th to look at what directions councillors want officers to take in starting to tackle these challenges.
Thanks, Provost. And thanks for that response, Andrew. It's fair. We need to do something, but it will be interesting in that meeting. I'm sure we need to bring sandwiches and book in at the Cairndale. It'll be a long meeting.
But you'll not get a bus home, so.
Well done, Tracy.
Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. Slightly following up on what the Vice Chair has just said there. I'm actually looking on page 384, item 418, and the sort of individual ward stats. So particularly picking up Locker Ward has an increase of 15.57%. That's 1,653 people. I'm just wondering, generally, we don't have our own housing, but we have our housing partners who are building a number of schemes across the whole of Dumfries and Galloway, and definitely some in the Nithsdale. What impact that's going to have on our population, because that could well, in terms of who is housed there, that is up to the housing associations, and often brings in people from the outside. So, and some people moving within Dumfries and Galloway, which will free up other homes for other people. So I'm just wondering what the impact of these new housing schemes is, because it's quite a number of units going in, and a lot of them are family houses. So, we could expect a fair number of people getting added to our population over a period of time.
Thanks, Councillor Lowe. It's absolutely the increase in available housing will be making a difference, and one area that we will be continuing to monitor is you rightly sort of pick out that Locker Ward has had sort of a housing estate that's a little bit more established and come forward a little earlier than the others. But I suppose when we look at the sort of the more rural locations, the Springham, the Johnston Bridge and the Leswold that are coming on board, to understand if they're having a positive impact in bringing more families to those locations, what that means to the sustainability of the schools, what that means in relation to the transport network and the demand on it. So all these sort of new interventions we'll continue to monitor at this point to see what the change occurs and as to how that then directs future investments and future opportunities.
Thanks, Andy. You happy with that, Councillor Lowe?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really sorry I missed the seminar on this as well. But I was just wondering, I know it came from the Scottish Government depopulation, and their suggestion was to ask people why they've moved here and work on that as opposed to the other way around, but I don't always necessarily agree with that. So I suppose my question is, have we actually done it the other way as well and asked people that have moved away, especially our youngsters, what it would take for them to move back so we can see where the gaps in the market are. And also, we've talked a lot about transport in essence of buses, but in actual fact, there's train lines run through our ward, our area. And the fact that the train line here is still electric, you know, there's been no upgrade at all, and the train, it still takes a good 2 hours to get to Glasgow, but actually the people we need to move down here. So what can we do, in essence, as a council to try and get this train line upgraded so it takes much less time? And, you know, Jim, that will work in your ward as well, Vice Chair, is you've got the train line goes through Sanquhar, and that would certainly help with repopulation if that train actually moved faster than what it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. We did sort of interview a few youngsters over in the west of the region as part of that community engagement, those people who were sort of around in relation to moving away and moving back. One of the highlighted factors was that at the moment youngsters have to move away. They don't necessarily want to move away. That's access in education is in the main sort of challenge, but also employment opportunities. When people do move to university, there is a high percentage of people staying at university or around that university town. If I take Glasgow and Edinburgh as examples, you know, they've got the two highest retentions of university students across the whole of the UK, which is around about 50% of people who move to Glasgow and Edinburgh for university will stay in that region. So we recognise, and something we want to sort of look at is closing that gap where people don't have to leave. Now, what that provision is, that agile working opportunity, the digital working, but that's the same for digital education and sort of other opportunities such as the further and higher education. In relation to the train line, you're absolutely correct as well, and that is encompassed as the wider public transport challenge. But that's sort of that comes under sort of what we'll need to lobby on, because it's not something that we have a direct influence.
Thanks, Andy. You okay with that, Councillor Stevenson? Councillor Dorward.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not going to ask any questions on the report. I think we've had the analysis done with funding from Scottish Government, which has been very, very welcome. Maybe a little bit late, given the fact it's about 10, 15 years we've been suffering depopulation, but better late than never, which is good. We've got one of the worst depopulation figures out with the islands, I think, in Dumfries and Galloway, which is horrendous. So it's self-evident what the issues are. What I'm asking about is, and it says there'll be a report coming to full council, which I can't access yet, so maybe it's just me, I can't access it online at the moment. Are we going to have an action plan? Are we going to have some solutions? And hopefully it won't just be a DGC thing, Dumfries and Galloway Council, because we can't do it ourselves. It has to be a much broader public, independent, third sector collaboration, I would suggest. It's just somebody assurance that there will be something in that in next week's full council. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dorward. I can provide you with reassurance that it will encompass an element of what sort of directions we're looking at, that place planning and how we integrate place planning within addressing depopulation and demographic change, I should pick up there, within place planning. The engagement with community planning partners, we've done a couple sort of introductory sort of discussions with community planning partnerships, and also our statutory partners, you know, in the likes of the NHS. So that will sort of encompass, along with where we sort of take forward opportunities for potential interventions or monitoring those interventions that we've already got underway within the council.
Thanks for that. I mean, I think it's probably self-evident, maybe just to me, but that public sector investment will encourage private sector investment. There's quite a lot of capital investment going on in Dumfries and Galloway across the whole region, which is good. It isn't just in Dumfries, as some people think. It's actually across the whole region, and that will hopefully bring in private sector investment. But it would be really useful to see what that looks like, and hopefully, and I'm you know, given that the way that the graphs are declining in terms of population quite rapidly, and you know, going forward, and we're going to be like Cocoon, the film, soon, if we don't get any, you know, yeah, everybody's seen that movie. You know, no? Okay, maybe it's an age thing. Some people remember Cocoon from the 80s. We don't want to be like that. We don't want to be like that. So it isn't just, I think it's very much a local thing, and getting local partners involved, but it's also a national thing. I mean, government have given us some money for the study, but I don't know how the engagement there is going to go in the future as well. Is there anything being said in terms of that? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dorwood. Just to pick up on the element of the sort of employability, we're working with SOS. You know, we started those conversations with SOS, and we recently had a convention in the south of Scotland where we discussed addressing depopulation and demographic change at that meeting with ministers at the Scottish Government. There is an opportunity of which we've submitted a request for additional funding on this work. What I would say is that it's not significant funding, but it is something that will help us sort of look at what we do and how we take it forward. We are a member of sort of an addressing depopulation action group, which is Scottish Government led, and we feed into the Scottish Government sort of ministerial task group in relation to that. The other part that recently, I think yesterday, COSLA published their white paper on addressing depopulation. So this as a topic is getting sort of more and more on the sort of Scottish Government agenda, and therefore what we have requested on multiple occasions is this understanding the Scottish Government as the rural impact of policy decisions and the impact upon depopulation and policy decisions. So whilst many policy decisions will be well-intentioned, there needs to be that full understanding of what's positive and what may well be the detriment, and therefore ensuring that that's balanced out. And we've made those points quite clear, both for COSLA in their white paper, but also to Scottish Government on a regular basis.
Thank you for that. And I do know Cocoon, I love that film, but we don't want to be like Cocoon. It's now given me a mental picture and make me think this is more urgent than I thought it was. Okay, we've got Teo Callamack on the line, on the screen.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question. How will young people be involved in the conversations about depopulation, sorry? And do you have any plans on making the area more enticing for repopulation for young people?
Thanks for that one. Just in relation to the research was undertaken in the west of the region in three areas: the Rins, which was a coastal one, the Glenkens rural, and Newton Stewart, and youth groups and young people were involved in that engagement. So we've had some feedback in relation to the research. We will continue with that sort of community engagement when we look at how we take things forward. We played specific recognition to the 10,000 Voices survey within the research, and also try and pick those things up to help guide what we're looking at, and those things have come through in the report. In relation to things for making young people more interesting for young people, I can't specifically speak about specific projects because I'm not aware of projects in relation to those areas. But it certainly is, when we speak about that social interaction, we recognise that we need to put on activities or services which reach a wider audience, which is young people and young families, beyond our current sort of bulk of people. There is a recognition that when generic consultation goes out, it'll be from the sort of people who are in a position to respond. So you're correct, and we'll work with youth services in relation to engaging going forward.
Thank you, Andy. Are you happy with that response to you?
Yes, I'm happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, good morning, Andy. Just a couple of things here. I'm looking at the dates and that, or the data. So I'm assuming this is all garnered from the national census. That's what's driving this. It's the census data. So if I'm assuming that's right, and that, correct me if I'm wrong, it means then by the time the data is actually published, it's old news, it's history. Because 2 years or thereabout to gather the data and then analyse it and then put it into some form of sensible dialogue for people to try and understand. It takes quite some time. And I'm interested to hear as well, we did 3 places, you know, we did the Rins and Glen Kens, and I came up with the other one was, you said. But the demographics of Central Dumfries, for example, are totally different, and be interesting to see what was happening here. And one last thing, just if I can, I don't see older people come to live in Dumfries and Galloway as a negative. I find it as a hugely positive because they bring their wealth with them, and that wealth gets spent in Dumfries and Galloway. And if they become infirm as they get older, then that's an employment again opportunity for locals to work in again. So I think we need to get away from this because they're older people coming. It's a negative. I don't see. I'm not saying you're saying that, but I'm picking up some of the conversation here today. And as one of the older councillors in the room, I actually think to get somebody who's selling up a house outside London and come to live in this area, they're actually bringing themselves, they're bringing experiences, they're bringing expertise, they're bringing lots of things. And I really get quite the bit. But yeah, and lastly, if I can, what effect is the exodus of workers after Brexit? Are we able to actually garner any statistics on that at all? That's it, Andy. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Just in relation, you're correct, the regional data is census data. However, the localised data is only up till 2021 because there's a delay in getting that data from the census, which we're hoping will be published in April 2026. You're also correct in relation to the lag that happens with that data and how we're watching it. We've established a sort of a monitoring and evaluation where we're trying to collect some localized data, which gives us fuller information or information that we can utilize, which gives an indication. Obviously, it's not the exact population data, but indications towards that. In relation to the 3 areas that were picked, they were picked because of coastal, a rural in the Glenkens and a small town in Newton Stewart. And part of the reason why it was focused on the West is that the West is experiencing a quicker depopulation. It's got a greater decline in there, whereas the sort of Nithsdale and Annandale and Nithsdale, they're not experiencing it and they're holding steady-ish, but that doesn't change the demographic change that's happening in these areas. So as we look forward, we can look to see how we apply or how the similarities of what we've learned from the information we've picked up from the west of the region and those 3 sort of case study areas.
You okay with that, Councillor Ferguson?
Yeah, that's all right. it's a perennial problem, isn't it? With that kind of data it comes in so far out of date. By the time you get it, you have to start all over again. It's almost like turning the clock back here, because the council used to gather all that data on a regular basis 10, 15, 20 years ago. But that was dropped for some reason. But yeah, okay, thanks very much, Andy. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Stett.
Just to finish off, I'm not want to be pernickety, Andy, but 4.21, Nithsdale have similar communities covering coastal communities such as Southerners and Kipford. You're not going to start pinching Kipford out of Stuart and put it into Nithsdale.
I recognise that one. I wanted to. I'd realised that I hadn't answered fully Councillor Ferguson's question in relation to the exodus of workers in relation to Brexit, and I just wanted to pick that up. We do have an inward migration number, which is, we have seen an increase from the rest of the UK, which has replaced the sort of the EU workers that were coming in previously. So what we can't sort of apply is whether they're going into employment or not. But what we have seen is that our migration is still sort of fairly sort of static and slightly on the increase.
Thank you for that. But can I just ask something on that? Because I will be pernickety. No, it's just you're saying that since the whole Brexit situation, and we're still seeing the increase, the migration into the region, but is the migration workers? And you've just said again, you can't really tell whether it's coming into work or not. And if that migration is a lot of elderly population, and I do understand where Councillor Ferguson's coming from, but I also understand if it's only the older population that's coming, then we've got real problems here. So are these people coming from other parts of the UK to work, or just to settle in their final years?
So what I can say is that there, I'm quite happy to share with the committee after this as well, that the migration numbers for the region and the age breakdown of those. So it's not all. It is obviously a higher number in the older bracket, the 55 plus, but there are sort of working age population people. So 55 is a working age population. So what we're unsure, what we don't have is when people migrate, the reason for migration. So that's the challenge that we have into saying, are they here for employment or are they here for early retirement? So as I say, that's a data thing that we'll need to pick up. When we look at employment numbers, that I can analyse that against the employment numbers to see whether our employment numbers have declined, and therefore that would give us an indication that there's been a decline. But I'll take that away and have a look at it.
On the same point, and I'm sure it'll be the case across the region, I've spoken to a few families recently that have moved into my ward that have moved and are now working from home. They have sold their house, they bought a cheaper house, and that's understandable. But they're working, but they're not working in Dumfries and Galloway. They're using the internet access to allow them to find a better quality of life and a better place to come and live and work. So it'll be a balance between all of them, I would think.
Thanks, Councillor Dempster. You're absolutely right. Agile work is something that is hard to sort of, but it's not a data thing that we actually physically have, only in relation to our, what data we have for our own workers and in relation to some of the other statutory services which will be reporting on agile working. But yes, there's been a big change in agile working post-COVID. We know that there was that spike. I'm not sure if it's in this data that we've given today, but the post-Brexit spike was people who had recognised that they needed more space because they were now working from home as opposed to going into the office, and therefore they chose to relocate.
Thank you, Andy. Councillor Ferguson, is that a legacy hand, or do you wish to come back in?
No, Andy actually came back in there and actually answered what I was going to ask. So thanks very much. It was about that working age people, because the Brexit people who left were working age in a lot of them, in the vast majority, in key industries in Dumfries and Galloway, key employment. And those are the pressure places that those key employers are currently facing. So we're right. We need a dual recruitment incoming into the region. let's keep the older people coming because they bring money with them, but let's also get younger working age families. And I know Andy was using the age 55, but in a lot of places, somebody's burned out with the age of 55, and they're coming here. And I think the other thing is we don't celebrate here is they come here. I think the end of life or for the latter years of their life because of the quality of life here in Dumfries and Galloway, and that's lost here. And I think we don't celebrate that enough. Dumfries and Galloway, if you look at Facebook, it's the worst place on earth. But actually, if you go to reality, it's actually a really good place to live. I'm a perfect example. I came here to work years ago, and I'm still here. So we need to sell that and sing it for the rafters so that everybody can hear it.
That's Councillor Ferguson. That went from a really bad tourist information to a really good one, so I'm glad you ended that well. Andy, you want to come in?
Yeah, it was just to pick up on the sort of the post-Brexit. There was an EU settlement scheme, and we had a very high percentage. I can't remember, but it was in the 70+ people of the EU resident or EU citizens who were residing in the region who decided to take up that option of staying in the region and continue to work here. So that was a high one. I'm picking up on the. One of the things that comes through in the reports is the change in the perception of rural, changing the perception of Dumfries and Galloway as a sort of, as Andy sort of picked up, a challenging place. But there are lots of reasons to feel positive about the place where people live. That came through. People who we interviewed as part of the community engagement really do enjoy living here. It's just that these little things are challenging, and they become more challenging for people moving to the region.
Thank you for that, Andy. So any more questions, members? We'll move to recommendations. 1, note the progress on the addressing depopulation research work at paragraphs 4.1 to 4.14. 2, consider the issues relating to depopulation and population change most relevant to Nithsdale from this research outlined at paragraphs 417 to 421 and within the appendix. And note that a report on this matter is scheduled to be considered at the Dumfries and Galloway Council on the 26th of March 2026. Thank you, members. So I've got no other business deemed urgent, so we'll move to item 12, which is Local Government Scotland Act 1973. Members are asked to consider the adoption of resolution to exclude the public from the meeting in terms of section 50A(4) and paragraph 1 of part 1 of schedule 7A on the Local Government Scotland Act 1973. Are members content to move? Okay, so